I'd like to call the Harrisburg Planning Commission to order at approximately 6:38. Commissioners, you received your November 6th meeting minutes. Are there any changes, deletions, additions?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second for approval of the minutes as they are. All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstention. Motion approved. Under old business, there's none. Under new business, item number 1, this is the variance and special exception for 833 Paxton Street, which is zone IND, filed by Michael Adams and Lamar Advertising, with Lamar Advertising. It's to relocate an existing two-sided billboard and convert one of the static signage faces to an electronic changeable message board utilizing LED technology. Yeah.
So the applicant is proposing to relocate an existing two-sided static-faced billboard with a V-shaped billboard featuring an internally illuminated LED sign face on one side. The proposal requires ZHB approval of 2 variances, one to allow for back-to-back signage separated by more than the permitted 5 feet, per section 7-325.14A3 of the zoning code, and one for the proposed signage to have an electronic changeable message board utilizing LED technology per section 7-325.14A6 of the zoning code. Property at 833 Paxton Street is comprised of 2 separate tracts that total 20.18 acres, which are separated by Interstate 83, which runs east-west roughly through the center of the property. There are 10 individual structures on site which support the on-site operations of a concrete plant. The buildings were constructed in various phases, with 4 of the buildings dating to 1930, 4 of the buildings dating to 1950, and the remainder being built in 1969 and 1998. Property is bounded by Paxton Street to the north, Amtrak Railroad tracks to the east, Sycamore Street to the south, and Amtrak Railroad to the west. This property features a number of utilitarian sheds, storage warehouse, and outbuildings surrounding a principal office building that is a 3-story detached brick structure in an industrial warehouse architectural style. Character-defining features of the office building include the brick masonry, the large divided light and plate glass windows sheltered by awnings on the first floor, and a large brick chimney extending from the center of the structure. Most of the surrounding buildings are brick or concrete block and feature few defining characteristics. Towards the center of the property is a large concrete production plant. The southern portion of the site, where the existing and proposed billboards will be located, features material storage partitioned by concrete block walls and parking areas. There are several buildings scattered about this portion of the property, with the largest being a 2-story building clad in standing seam metal siding. The primary office structure is similar in character and design to many of the surrounding buildings along Paxton Street and South Cameron Street, and thus contributes to the industrial character of the streetscapes and corridors, but many of the other structures and buildings on site are specific to the activity on site and stand out from the aesthetics of the surrounding area. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved with the following conditions. If the board approves the applicant's request as submitted, the applicant will be in conformance with rules and regulations set forth by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and receive approval from said entity subsequent to decision by the zoning hearing board. The applicant will limit message transition to 6 transitions per minute per previous approval for a similar proposal granted by the zoning hearing board. And finally, the applicant should ensure that the footprint of the relocation site is outside of the AE floodplain. The proximity of the new digital support structure to the AE floodplain boundary is such that the designation of the proposed location cannot be confirmed. Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. The variance relief requested by the applicant is intended to offset the loss of 18 structures with 30 signage faces at various points along the stretch of Interstate 83 running through the city due to the highway widening project, and a similar proposal was reviewed and approved by the zoning hearing board in November 2023. And as the property is located in an industrial and auto-oriented corridor and will face a widened highway and railroad, its installation should not be detrimental to the general character of the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Could you state your name, address, and relationship to the project?
I'll go first. Good morning, or afternoon, evening. Hey, I'm Andy Reebok. Our office at Lamar is at 308 South 10th Street in Lemoyne. I always introduce myself as the tall, skinny billboard guy. I'm celebrating my 40th company anniversary in February and my retirement on March 31st. but not before I cry a little bit about this I-83 road widening project. I'm thrilled that you guys take a couple of minutes with us tonight. Thank you.
Okay.
Michael Adams.
Could you sort of talk into the microphone?
Oh, sorry.
This is being recorded, so.
All right. Michael Adams, I'm the real estate manager for Lamar Harrisburg, 308 South 10th Street, Lemoyne, PA.
Okay. Both of you have heard the staff report with the conditions. Are you acceptable of those conditions?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to the report? Or?
I would like to add one thing to it, because I forgot to put it in, and I'll give this. I forgot to include the overlay. This is the basic overlay of the city of Harrisburg. Just so you have some flair for with the number of structures that we're talking about. It's updated. Everything you see in red and yellow is impacted, is already removed, or will be impacted by the project. I just wanted to, so you could see that it kind of helps looking at it in terms of scope, how big this is. I know you're fully aware they've taken everything through the city there, but that gives you an idea of the impact and the number of structures that we have. I just forgot to remind you.
Okay. Commissioners, I have no questions at this time, and I'll start with the commissioners about any concerns or questions, and I'll start with Commissioner McKissick.
Thank you, Joe. I think the applications made was fairly well documented, laid out most of the questions I would have had, and I think that ultimately we're losing a little bit of clutter, but gaining something else, which is typically seen in most industrial districts on interstate highways of 14 lanes or whatever it's going to be at that point. So I think the conditions that the city is proposing made sense. Nothing else.
Commissioner O'Toole?
Yeah, seems pretty straightforward. I think 6 transitions per minute won't be much of a distraction to the driver, so yeah, I'm in favor of it.
Commissioner Reed?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Merrick?
I don't have any questions. I believe the applicant substantiated the variance criteria and the need for this, so I'm fine with it.
Commissioner Jordan?
No questions.
Is there anyone from the public for or against this project? And I'll start to my left, the middle, and there's no one to my right. Commissioners, as you said, this is pretty straightforward. Could I get a motion?
Motion to approve with conditions?
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second to approve this with the conditions. All those in favor state by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Opposed? And abstentions. 0, motion carried. Good luck, gentlemen, and good luck with your retirement.
Thank you. I'm excited about it, but we have one more, then I'm definitely going to, we're number 2 on the agenda as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to rush you off here.
I know.
For your gift of retirement. Okay, this is the item number 2, and this is a variance and special exception for 3737 and 3745 North 6th Street. It's also zone I&D. It's filed by Michael Adams and with Lamar Advertising. This one is to install a single-sided billboard with a electronic changeable message board utilizing the LED technology. Staff.
Yep. So the applicant is proposing to relocate an existing 2-sided static face billboard with a single-sided billboard featuring an internally illuminated LED sign face on one side. The proposal requires the HB approval of 3 variances, one to allow for off-premise signage taller than permitted by right per section 7-325.1.14A5 of the zoning code, one for the proposed signage to have an electronically changeable message board utilizing LED technology per section 7-325.14A6 of the zoning code, and one to allow an off-premise sign within 200 feet of a residential lot line. And to clarify, the residential lot lines are actually in Susquehanna Township, so not actually sure whether they applied here, but I felt it was important to include that in case it became an issue at the zoning hearing board meeting. The subject property is comprised of two separate tracts that total 0.43 acres and feature a 3,979 square foot structure, which was constructed in 1957. The properties are bounded by Easter Road to the north, Norfolk Southern Railroad tracks to the east, Interstate 81 to the south, and North 6th Street to the west. This detached structure features elements of a vernacular commercial architectural style. Character-defining features include the varied facade treatments, the various building expansions, the partially enclosed outdoor deck along the front elevation, and the small freestanding sign in the northwestern corner. The main entrance features a full-view metal door set within a simple wooden surround. Two similar doors provide access to the outdoor seating area. Fenestration primarily consists of 3 single-pane windows on the side elevation and a single-pane window flanked by 8/1 windows on the front elevation. The structure is topped with a variety of roofing materials, including standing seam metal roofing over the front gable roof and the porch roof, gravel roofing over the main structure, and rubber roofing atop the small additions on the side and rear elevations. A majority of the property is occupied by an accessory surface parking lot with a strip of grass lawn along the North 6th Street frontage and grass lawn with a buffer of mature trees along the railroad tracks. Property differs from the surrounding residential neighborhood in both use and design, and thus does not contribute to the architectural character of the streetscape. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved with the following conditions. If the board approves the applicant's request as submitted, the applicant will be in conformance with rules and regulations set forth by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and receive approval from said entity subsequent to decision by the zoning hearing board. And the applicant will limit message transition to 6 transitions per minute per previous approval for a similar proposal granted by the zoning hearing board. Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. The applicant has previously received relief for an electronically changeable LED message board from the zoning hearing board in November 2023, and both the current proposal and the related one at 833 Paxton Street will result in the consolidation of static signage faces via LED message boards, creating an overall reduction in the amount of visual blight. With respect to the height, the proposed off-premise sign will retain the same height as the existing sign located 147 feet east of the proposed site, and is necessary to permit visibility to passersby on the elevated highway to the south. The applicant's off-premise signage mitigates potential impacts on residential properties to the north and west by proposing a one-sided billboard which faces east overlooking the Norfolk Southern Railroad tracks and warehouses along Industrial Road. And finally, because there is an existing billboard visible to surrounding residents that is being relocated as part of this request, the project will not introduce a new off-premise sign and thus will not create a new visual obstruction.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Again, you gentlemen heard the staff report with the 2 conditions. Are you acceptable of those conditions?
Yes, we are.
The only question I have is, when I looked at one of your pictures, it looks like the sign is on the parking lot of that bar or restaurant up there.
That is correct. Back in 1999, one of the predecessors to Lamar, we actually have a billboard easement there. So we're working with the owner on how we do that. Essentially, at the end of the day, we take up about a circle this big. So we actually have ownership rights in his parking lot.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that was my concern, if you talk to the owner of
Yes.
that.
Yes,
'Cause I know they have that lot there.
well, I sent him a copy of this proposal. I sent him a complete copy of the proposal. I've been on and off with him. We've been working on this for
2 years.
2.5, 3 years in trying to figure out, we initially tried to figure out a way to possibly make it work inside of there. What I can do, there's a picture, so you can see about what we're dealing with here. So you know, I'm a visual person, I like pictures. So you can see that we're not kind of like trying to pull the wool over your eyes here. If you look at the top picture, that is where the new lines were built and relocated. And if you look at the bottom of this, that's a shot from one of our cranes. Essentially, when you're standing at the pole of the billboard, if you touch the one pole, you can almost touch the rail cars. it's not safe for our people or anybody else to be in there. We have 67 leases with Norfolk Southern. So we're tried to work everything we could out with. And it just became a point that there's no way we can do, you can operate that in there.
Okay. And you basically said you have talked to the owner of the restaurant and.
Yeah, yep, George, just, Mr. G, that's the easiest way to say it.
Okay, that's my only question I have so far. Commissioners, again, if you have any concerns or questions, I'll start with Commissioner McKenzie.
I have none. I think the same comments as a previous application apply.
Commissioner O'Toole.
Jeffrey, I missed your comment about Susquehanna. This appears to be in Susquehanna Township.
So there is a weird little strip on the west side of the railroad tracks above 81, where some of the properties are in the city and some of them are not. This is one, like literally these two properties are located in the city, and then a little bit further north, as you get toward Lingostown Road, there are a few that are in the city as well. So it is a unique context for this particular request.
Well, then, Mr. G's, not relevant to the issue, but Mr. G's Restaurant, is that in Susquehanna Township, or is that?
No, that's in the city.
Is that right? All right. Yeah, I have no questions. It's pretty cut and dry.
I didn't know that either. Commissioner Reed,
No questions.
Commissioner Merrick.
I guess one question. So you mentioned, relocating the billboard, the pole. I mean, looking at this draft sketch plan, is it truly taking up just one parking space?
Well, yeah, one parking
Or is
space.
it more because you need more clearance around it?
No, it takes up one. Essentially, the difference when you look at what I'm gonna say is a flat piece of paper on a survey, that board is 50-some on bottom, is 50-some feet on the air. Essentially, it's, give or take, 12 square feet. It's a circle about yay big. What we'll do is, and the proposal, we will tuck that pole as close as we can with the foundations and stuff to that property line to try to impact the property owner the least amount as we can. So our goal is so he can operate. We'd like to be good neighbors, so.
It's always helpful. But no, I think beyond that, I understand the cause, the reason for the relocation. So no other questions.
Commissioner Jordan.
No, no further questions. The only concern I had was also about the property owner
Okay.
being in a loop. So with that and the easement, looks like we're pretty straightforward.
Is there anyone from the public for or against the project? I'll start to my left, go to the center, and no one's to my right. Again, this is straightforward. Commissioners, could I get a motion?
So moved with conditions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, who's going to break the tie there?
You can give it to Duran.
Right. Thank you, Ann. It's been moved to second for approval of this project with the conditions. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. Motion carried. Good luck.
Thanks for your help.
Good luck with
Now
retirement.
you can retire.
I hope you have a lot to do.
Take up fishing.
Aim to please.
I think I have everything.
We're on item number 3. This is a special exception for 2300 North 7th Street. It's zone IND. It's followed by, if I mess your name up, just say it, Saul Ali.
Yep, Saad Ali.
Saul Ali, with Mo.
Wait, hold on.
Thank you. Meet LLC. This is to request relief from the off-street parking requirements associated with a meat processing use.
So the applicant is proposing to establish a meat processing use on site and is requesting relief from the off-street parking requirements associated for such use outlined in section 7-327.6 of the zoning code. Per the regulations, the proposed use would require one parking space for each 1,000 square feet of gross floor area, or one space for each employee. Based on the floor area of the building, the proposed use would require 7 off-street parking spaces. Property at 2300 North 7th Street is a .18 acre lot featuring a 6,702 square foot structure which was constructed in 1850. Property is bounded by the property at 2322 North 7th Street to the north and west, North 7th Street to the east, and Emerald Street to the south. The semi-detached structure features elements of a vernacular industrial architectural style. Character defining features include the original brick facade, which has largely been encapsulated by standing seam metal siding, although portions are still visible, the original metal shop windows on the front elevation, and the stepped parapet wall on the front elevation. There are 3 doors into the property, including 2 providing direct access to the sidewalk along North 7th Street, and 1 into the vehicular access area at the rear of the building, located next to a garage door providing access to the building interior. All are solid metal doors, with those on the front being accessed by short flights of concrete steps with metal railings. Fenestration consists of 5 metal divided light windows on the front elevation. The structure is topped with a gable roof clad in asphalt shingles. There are small strips of grass along the front and side of the building. The alterations to the structure over time, primarily the covering of windows in the original brick masonry facade, have detracted from the industrial historic character of the structure. Thus, although the property is located along a heavily industrial corridor, the building only makes a minor contribution to the architectural and historic character of the streetscape. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved with the following conditions. The applicant must remove the informal parking spaces along the rear of the building, as such spaces prevent vehicular access to the subject property and the property to the north. The applicant should create a secure indoor location for bike storage or construct a concrete pad with bike racks in the grass adjacent to the vehicular access point. And finally, the applicant must install physical obstructions along the curb, along the frontage with both Emerald Street and North 7th Street, which prevent illegal sidewalk parking observed during site visits to and by the property. And the Planning Commission may recall that we made this a condition for a recent review on South 17th Street for a barber shop there, which the applicant did in fact install. The Planning Bureau staff recommends the request be approved for the following reasons. Approval of the zoning relief request will enable the occupancy and productive reuse of a property that has been vacant since 2018. And there is sufficient on-street parking along the property frontage to accommodate worker vehicles, and the applicant is committed to providing secure bike storage for workers.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Could you state your name, address,
yeah.
and relationship to the project?
Yeah, my name is Saad Ali. The address is 2300 North 7th Street in Harrisburg. I'm the president of the company.
Okay, and you heard the staff report. Are you acceptable of the 3 conditions?
So I had a question regarding the Emerald Street. So there's already signs up that say no park. Is that what you're referring to? Like,
No, we wanted physical obstructions along the curb to prevent people driving onto the sidewalk, which is frankly pretty persistent along North 7th Street and along these particular areas. But something like even just like a small concrete block or something like that to prevent maybe a small metal post or something is what the applicant for 425 South 17th Street put in.
okay, so would like a yellow line or something like that work?
It would need to be a physical obstruction. I think anything less than that would not have the intended effect.
So I'm not following like what you mean by the block.
So have you ever seen like a concrete cube or something
Oh,
like
okay,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, to prevent basically a vehicle being able to drive up onto the,
Okay, so you want them all, like all around Emerald, or you're?
on the building frontage of Emerald and South 17th Street. So basically, enough that it would prevent, again, the driving onto the sidewalk that we see a lot in that area.
Okay, but that would actually be on the sidewalk then?
There are grass strips between the sidewalk and the curb that it could go like right there. It could be located there.
Okay.
You can probably, if it's not clear, you can work with Jeff
Okay,
to.
yeah, I'm not too sure how I would like make that happen, but.
And that would be, and at the end of the day, that would be the property owner's responsibility. But again, we want to make sure we're, keeping sidewalks clear, and the property owner themselves has theoretically an interest in making sure that people are parking legally around their
Yeah,
property.
because if it's around the grass area, they can't really mow the grass too, so you have to consider that too during the summertime.
And we're happy to discuss some alternatives that would work for this particular area.
Okay, the bike racks shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
The third thing you mentioned was,
Removing the 2 parking spaces, so I note that there are parking spaces lined in that area there. I'm not sure when that was done, but the ones directly behind the building prevent cars from driving into the garage door there, so they're not legal or formal parking spaces there. So those just wouldn't be lined in the
so
future.
just paint over.
Yeah, like paint over
Okay,
them.
That's not an issue.
Jeff, if you eliminate those, so you're saying he'll have enough spaces without those?
Yeah, there's two you can create on site at the back end of where that vehicular access area is that would not prevent any cars from driving into either this site or, again, the property to the north, which this is also the access for that. And there would be sufficient on-street parking otherwise, plus if the applicant's providing space for his workers to bike, if that's how they get there, that should meet the criteria that the zoning code has to allow for relief from off-street parking.
Because I think, did you say 7 was the number?
Yeah, based on the floor area.
So he's covered then.
Yeah, it'd be for 5 spaces then, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have, Commissioners. If you have your concerns or questions, I'll start with Commissioner McKenzie.
No, I think the city's proposed solution's the one that makes sense. We just can't have cars backing up into pedestrians. That's really what it's about. We can increase that request to the 5, and the 2 on site.
Commissioner O'Toole?
Yes, so explain the meat processing, what will be taking place here at the plant?
So basically, we bring in like primals, like box meat, and then we just do a fabrication and repackage.
And then ship it off to supermarkets, or, okay. Does David Peffley own the building?
Yeah.
Yes, somewhere along the line, he got a great deal on red corrugated siding. It's on every building on North 7th Street. That's a dead giveaway.
And Cameron.
Okay, yeah, Cameron, he's taking over Cameron too, so yeah, make him pay for that,
Well, I technically bought it, so it's like we're on agreement.
all right. Then I guess you can't make him pay for the whatever it is that Jeffrey wants you to put in to stop the parking. I have no further questions.
Commissioner Reed?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Eric?
Yes, I do have a couple questions. I apologize, Jeff, but I am not following the parking situation here and what you're requesting he do. So you're
yeah,
is this lot not part of their parcel, the building?
It is part of the parcel, but if you look at it, I'm not sure who drew those lines on there, but I think somebody maybe in the past did that to try and create parking.
Sure.
But they're not legal parking spaces, and as the applicant notes in their sketch site plan, they have the 2 spaces to the left there and the 2 spaces to the right on their sketch site plan with presumably, I guess, a drive aisle between them. But the ones on the right would block the garage door access to this property, as well as the smaller garage door into the building at 2322 North 7th Street just to the north of that. And the reason I'm doing it, maybe this applicant would be fine not driving their vehicles in, but if you're creating formal parking spaces through this process, they would theoretically apply to a future use, and maybe a future business on this property would be an auto repair shop, where you would drive into the building, and therefore having those parking spaces right in front of the door then would be problematic, and then they'd have to find a solution for the parking. So we just want to make sure that it's clear that those spaces are not counted as legal, formal spaces for the purposes of providing the off-street parking.
Okay, and you're saying he can keep the 2 on the left?
Yeah, I believe they can provide
Those
2 there
would be
without getting
2.
in the way of access to the other buildings.
So now he's requesting 5 off-street parking spaces
Correct.
total, okay. but when I look at the photos of the street, there's no parking signs all around the building, so where?
Yeah, I asked
You,
the,
in your report, it says that there's space for them to park along the frontage of the building, but there's really not, there's no parking signs.
I asked the city engineer about that, because I was like, well, why isn't there any parking here? This seems to be a reasonable place to have parking. And he just got here, so he hasn't been here very long, but he told me he'd look into it. He said, looking at it, he's like, yeah, I'm not sure where we have those signs either. They look relatively new. I know in certain cases that has been done in the past, where our city engineer's office has gone out and put like no parking signs because somebody from the community has asked for that. And in our communications with them, we've said, well, that's not a legal driveway curb cut, so can you go out and remove those signs? And I think maybe this was a response to something like that, but it seems unwarranted for this area, because it's a one-way traffic there, and there's sufficient space to park on both sides and drive. So when I talked to the city engineer, he seemed to be of the mind that those could eventually be removed, because he didn't understand why they were there either. And so
And
it's
then-
my anticipation that will be the case.
Who would be the one to put that in motion then?
I-
Does the applicant have to do that, or?
No, I
does
think
the
that would be
city
handled
do that?
internally within the city between myself and the city engineer's office.
Okay, which would then make sense why you'd want to put barriers then
Yeah.
along that, especially if those no parking signs go away.
Mhm.
Okay. One other question for the applicant. How do you anticipate your deliveries coming in? Like, are they gonna be large trucks?
No, they're mostly box trucks, and they come
Okay.
they're gonna be coming either early in the morning or leaving not during operation time.
Are they utilizing this garage door through here?
So there'll be no cars there when they're doing that.
Okay, no other questions, thanks.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes, Jeffrey, so just piggybacking off of Ann's comment, is there a possibility maybe he was doing that for daylighting the intersection, as far as like, since it's at the corner, maybe that's why?
Yeah, I don't think so, for a couple reasons. One, it's that full length all the way up to there. And in my calculation of available potential on-street parking spaces, I did remove 20 feet from the intersection, which is the standard. And two, because the traffic is one way going west there, so in theory, it would be different if it were coming eastbound there. You wouldn't want a car parked where somebody might be walking out, but because all the traffic will be going that way, you'd be able to see anybody walking up and down 7th Street anyway. So, like I said, I think sometimes there's a response to a public complaint or something like, hey, we'd like to prevent parking here, but there's really not a justification for it, so it's kind of just like, okay, we'll go out and put a sign there. And like I said, in my conversations, it didn't sound like there was a justification that they could tell for why those were there.
Yeah, if you're amenable to condition number 3, working with Jeffrey to figure out what type of obstructions to keep people from parking on the sidewalk, then I have no questions. Thank you.
Is there anyone from the public for or against this project? Start to my left. No one in the middle anymore. No one to my right. You're all leaving me. Commissioners, again, straightforward. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve with the conditions as stated.
Is there a second?
I'll say, go ahead and
Okay,
choose.
a tie again. It's been moved and second for approval with the conditions. All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstention. Motion carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
If I could, before Mr. Ali leaves, and it has nothing to do with your current application, Mr. Ali, which is why I didn't bring it up again, but the Law Bureau would like to, on the record, ask you, as a corporate citizen in Harrisburg, to come and speak with us about your other properties and coming into compliance on your trash bills. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's it. I'm sorry.
Oh. Okay, under old business, I think was brought up by, of course, our favorite commissioner about the market. And Jeff, if you, both of you could, I guess, update me, and I know I've seen it in the paper, and I wonder about what's going on there.
I haven't had any explicit conversations with the administration about what next steps are or what the decision-making kind of been is that has led us to where we are here. I was kind of, saw the story as everybody else did and about the proposed design. I know I've had some preliminary conversations with the architecture firm that was selected about some conceptual aspects of both the building and the site about, what the plaza would look like, whether it would be a plaza on the east end. But outside of those communications, I really haven't had much other interaction regarding the Broad Street Market and the next steps. So I'm anticipating those conversations may be coming in the next, weeks or months ahead here. But other than that, I don't really have an update.
Yeah, I guess along those lines, it looked fairly well down the pike, and I think just using the mayor's own words, that I have selected a solution and I'm glad to unveil it. I'm going to reference a couple of requests for proposal, one for construction management, the list of services from March of last year, and also from last August, the architects. And I'll read out of section page 3, page 4, item IV, the duties under this contract for the construction manager: coordinate with city and other authorities having jurisdiction, AHJ, to assess entitlements, rights, restrictions, and approval process for intended use as directed by the city. AHJs may include, but not be limited to, the city, county, state, and federal departments and agencies such as codes, planning, which I think Planning Commission falls under, fire, public works, and historic review board. Just put that out there. And it goes on under different phases in the project where that is supposed to happen again. As I look at the architectural contract that was issued slightly a bit later, a couple of interesting things in here. The architect was retained to, with project scope, to restore the building within the requirements imposed by its listing on the National Register, complying with applicable code requirements and meeting identified vendor needs. Also went on to say, as the note the project's potential to include 2 areas. This would be design of a central plaza area, which leads you to believe it was a streetscape, not a building, and also certain upgrades for the stone building. Goes on to say, as this is a high-profile public project, periodic progress reports will be provided to various media outlets through the city's communications office. And going onward here, it also says that under services for the architect, working with staff, community representatives, to define the requirements for building restoration. I've been in contact with the Harbor Board chair, indicate that they have not been contacted relative to this project. This may include public events and meetings with city council when requested. So it seems like this thing's off the rails relative to community connection or involvement. And if there was a project that I've ever seen in my 28 years on the board that has stirred people's hearts to try and bring it back to life, to the point we even have people donating money to install light bulbs and install piping in a tent, and all of a sudden the project appears to be well down the road as to what it's going to be. And what I'm hearing is it's a $20 million project. The damage estimate that came out and the report that I received from the insurance company indicated about $6 million worth of work. And so it seems like this thing has changed from something that could be achievable using insurance proceeds and perhaps a little city funds to something that's multi-year achievable, 5 years, 10 years, to raise $14 million. By that time, the vendor's base will be killed off. They will be in Hershey, they will be in the West Shore, and the city will be left with another loss, just like William Penn, like losing the Midtown campus of Hack, losing the Harrisburg Hospital lands, and so on. And this is one of the last things remaining in one of the last functioning areas of the city. And I'm just very concerned as a planning commission member that we have not heard, seen, or been consulted in any way to this point in time. And I would ask if you can look into it further and provide a report. And I do believe there's a couple folks here from Historic Harrisburg, and I would, if it'd be all right, ask them to provide comment or input relative. I don't know if you've been contacted or had.
Could you come up to
You're
the
gonna have to
microphone?
use them.
Hello, my name is Christopher Zaro. I work with David Morrison at Historic Harrisburg Association. Pretty much, he asked me to come down here today to reiterate our hope that the city will continue to do its outreach and its due diligence in connecting with the community, because it is a huge part of the city, as you well know. And we just want to make sure that the city is doing its due diligence of connecting with the neighborhood and all stakeholders, as well as the vendors, to listen to what their concerns and needs are.
If I may ask, has Historic Harrisburg been approached by the city, the design team, or the construction manager for input or review?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Thank you. You're just here for moral support. All right. I guess.
Solicitor, did you have any input?
At this point, I mean, I think we are, sitting in, obviously, in talks to make sure that everything goes the way it's supposed to go. It's above my pay grade, really, at this point, but I will take the message back that there is hopes that there will be transparency and community involvement. I think that that's what the mayor is hoping to do. There's going to be a bunch of rounds of these things back and forth with city council. I do think there is a separation in between the insurance proceeds that you talked about that were estimated to fix the brick building, and that I think is separate from the whole pot that you discussed that includes a new building. So I'm not authorized to make any comments. As you said, it does come out of the mayor's office and the Office of Communications. I will, however, take back that there is the hope for everyone, zoning, planning, and the citizens to be involved, and I'm sure the mayor will continue to be as transparent as she can be in doing that.
Any other commissioners have any concerns or comments on it? Ann?
Well, I'll certainly just echo, Commissioner McKissick's comments here and concerns that were raised. I fully agree with what he brought forth. And, there's a lot of questions that came out after that Penn Live article and her interview, and saying that a design had already been selected, and then hearing after the fact that not a single community or stakeholder had been engaged in the selection of that design. And that's very concerning as to how they're handling this process. Are we going to be handed a design at some point for a formal review? I mean, are they going to go through the planning channels and approvals? But it is concerning that other stakeholders have not been engaged and the community has not been involved. And I did see a formal statement released by Eric Haggerty from the Broad Street Market Alliance, also confirming that he had not been engaged in any communications regarding the design plans. And then my other question would just be around the financial aspect of what's being proposed. Where are the additional dollars going to be raised? And how are we going to see this plan successfully be constructed?
Commissioner Jordan?
Yeah, just kind of in the same vein as my fellow commissioners here, I was kind of surprised to see the articles, and I was a little confused about the design for the possible third building when, unless I missed something, I didn't see any type of design or commentary for the existing brick building being restored. So, one, it seemed like things may be possibly out of order, and then also maybe that there's a miscommunication as far as prioritization goes. So, beyond that, just pretty much like everyone else here has said, the expectation was that the citizenry and the various bodies of, dealing with the city were going to be consulted, or, presentation, designs, specs, something of that nature prior to seeing something in the local paper.
Commissioner Reed? Commissioner O'Toole?
I can't add anything to what you said.
Yeah, I'm same way. It's surprising. I always look at the news on the TV, and it like all of a sudden this project comes up, and I'm thinking, now it took them, I don't know, 2 years to even get a tent outside. They couldn't get 2 people or 2 or 3 employers to do a tent, and it took them all those months. And then that took half of the people, volunteers, did it. And now they're going to do this, I don't know what you call it, this castle or whatever it is going to be out there. I'm just like, and it's causing all kind of confusion. I know it seems like city council doesn't know about it, and they're having problems, and the mayor's office, they're going back and forth. So I'm, like you said, transparency, we need that at least, so that we know what's going on. So Jeff, we're going to rely on you guys to keep us informed, I guess.
Yeah, well, and as I think, Tirsa said, we anticipate that this will be kind of an iterative process, and that the roadmap is still being laid out.
Well, looking forward to it if that.
Yeah, good luck with that. Is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.